Hey guys, welcome to this week's review of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Woo! Let's get into it. So the episode starts off with Jenny and her husband, and they're picking back up this conversation about him wanting more kids and him wanting a sister wife, and oh my gosh. Well, I don't know if you guys heard, but Jenny's niece came out. She made a video on Instagram, and she's alleging that this whole storyline is fake, right? And that the husband couldn't possibly want more kids because he's not involved in his own kids' lives. Do I believe this? Listen, I mean, it's reality television, and we know that they fake stuff from the producers to the cast. So would I be surprised if this was all fake and a storyline for the show? No, I wouldn't be surprised. However, Jenny and her husband would have to be really good actors. I was watching this scene and it was in the back of my head that this all could be fake, but I'm watching them and the way that Jenny's crying, the way that Dewey's crying, I mean, they deserve an Oscar if it's fake, right? Now, her niece said, Jenny was living with her mom and there was drama there and Jenny sued them and blah, 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 this whole back and forth. I guess we'll see how maybe she'll address some of this during the reunion. But I don't know. I'm buying it. I'm buying it. Maybe I'm a fool, but it looks convincing to me, unless they're really, really, really good actors. But the tears in her eyes, the emotion seemed authentic to me. Listen, with Dewey, his reasoning for having more kids is that he feels empty inside. And my personal opinion, keyword opinion, having children, they're not props, right? You don't have children to fill the emptiness inside of you. Children will never do that. They're their own being, right? Now, if you have 100 kids and 100 wives, sure, they may serve as a distraction, but they won't ever actually fill the emptiness that you feel within yourself. That's something that you are going to have to deal with, right? And I do think it is a good idea for him to see a therapist or for him to talk to somebody, right? And figure out what that empty feeling is. Right? Because if we're going to believe the niece, they said that he wasn't so much involved in the kids' lives. So it's like, is having kids more so about your image and your ego versus really thinking about the emotional health of your existing children? And if you were to have more children, how that would work out? Because if this is all for your ego, it's not really worth it. There are other ways to feed your ego, Maybe get a sports car or something. I'm joking. But this is very uncomfortable, right? Like, listen, if you want to have multiple partners or whatever, and that's something you discuss ahead of time, and you go into the marriage where both parties know what it's going to be later on, or it's a possibility, that's one thing. But if someone marries you thinking that it's going to be a monogamous relationship, you can't just switch things up later on just because you don't get exactly what you want. That's not what you signed up for. I would have been like, okay, you want another wife? Fine, let's get a divorce. Then you can have another wife and you can have more children then, right? Like, I don't know what the compromise is going to be on this one. There's no real compromise. He either accepts that she doesn't want more children, or he doesn't accept that and he finds somebody else and they get a divorce, and that's just what it is. It's, really sad. But you know what they say about housewives coming on the show to get a divorce. I mean, I hope that's not the case with Jenny, but what else can you do? I mean, it's really sad. It really is. Moving on to someone that also potentially went on the show to get a divorce. Meredith and Seth. Is it just me? But I don't like Seth's jokes. I just find him very off-putting. Everything is about sex. Sex, 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 sex. And it's like, yes, on one hand, it is flattering for your partner to find you attractive. But I don't know. Something about him is just off-putting. But he's not my husband. Whatever. But I'm not really feeling him. They had this conversation about she feels like she's, carrying more weight when it comes to the children and dealing with what's going on in their lives. And I do get what he's kind of saying, like her children are adults, they are grown, so they are going to have to figure out lives for themselves instead of, calling them to fix situations. I mean, it's kind of hard to speak on it because she didn't really give details or examples of what the children are calling her about. So it could be something stupid, right? Or it could be something serious. Who knows? But it's not just about fixing things for your children as they become adults. It's more so about emotional support. Maybe they just want someone to talk about, someone to talk to, or someone to vent the frustrations that they're experiencing. Because, yeah, just because you're an adult doesn't mean that you still don't need your parents, or especially when you're an adult, you go through difficult situations. So it's nice to have someone that you can call and vent to and talk to and ask for advice, because you're technically grown, but you're still learning. There's a lot of things you haven't experienced yet, and if you can go to someone for guidance and wisdom, why not? And they have two parents. They should be able to go to their mother and they should be able to go to their father, because I'm pretty sure Seth may have some wisdom and guidance. But I guess his way of dealing with it is more so like, listen, that's part of being an adult. You got to figure it out yourself. You can't just come and ask me, or I can't fix things for you. You got to experience things. You got to make mistakes and da. So, it's like I said, it's really hard to comment on because they didn't give a specific example, but I can see both sides of the situation. I think there needs to be a balance, because Meredith could be coddling them, right? Meredith could be the type of person that wants to be the fixer, right? Wants to fix every situation for them. And so they just go to her to do that. And that could be harmful for them because they don't have to take accountability for anything. But on the flip side, when it comes to Seth, I think maybe he could just be saying, oh, they're grown. And he could be using that as an excuse to disengage. Pun intended, right? He could be using that as an excuse to disengage and focus on himself and focus on his work and not really deal with that because he doesn't want to. That has been one of the issues in their marriage, that Seth has been more focused on his work, and his work leads him to travel all over the place, right? So it seems kind of like a cop-out. But he heard her, and he's like, fine, I will do better. But I don't know with Seth. It just, something about him is off-putting. When he said he'll do more, it felt a little bit over the top. Like, I will jump on grenades for you. I will manage the stress and da-da-da-da-da-da. It just didn't come off as genuine, right? It came off a little bit sarcastic, a little bit condescending, right? So, I don't know. They are a very handsome couple. They are. They look great together, but I don't really feel the chemistry between them, you know? But if it's working, it's working. Hey, I'm not gonna root for anybody's divorce. Moving on. So Heather, she had this 1-year anniversary party for her business, her beauty lab. She opened up another location, so it's been a year of that. So they had a little party, and a bunch of her employees, that's so weird, got pregnant at the same time. So they all have 1-year-olds. So that was really cute, right? With all the babies and everything. So during this party, you know, Whitney comes, Jen is there, the new girl, Angie's there, who looks like Sarah Paulson. She really does. She reminds me of her. And Whitney is talking about how her and Lisa, they went to dinner, and we know the story, right? With this whole catering business. And I'm sorry, it's just something about this story is weird to me. I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit contrived. I could be wrong, but I'm not buying it, right? I feel like maybe Lisa and the new girl Angie came together, right? They came up with this storyline to sort of give both of them a boost, right? You want to enter the scene with a bang, you know, something to get people talking about. It's just not coming off as authentic to me. And that's why I don't know. It's like I want to like Angie. I like the way she talks. She's good looking. She seems to have the fashions. It's like all the makings of a potentially good housewife, but it's just, I don't know. It's just not really adding up for me. It's not making sense, because if your friend cancels your catering, right, for your charity event, would you really be reaching out to them and saying, I'm sorry and I love you and everything like that? It would be more like, how could you, you know? How could you do me like that? So I'm just getting mixed messages from everybody. It's weird, and Whitney is kind of putting me off of this situation as well. I don't know, something about this is not coming off as real. So to even weigh in on it is like, it doesn't really make too much sense to me, because it's like, I feel like it's fake. I'm sorry, I do. I feel like it's fake. So all the ladies, they go tubing, which looks really fun. I would love to do that, right? But on the ride there, Lisa and Mary, you know, they get into a little tiff. Because I believe it was last season, Mary made the comment that carbonated water hardens your ovaries. Now, I don't know that for sure, but I have heard that carbonated drinks in general are not good for you. So I wouldn't be surprised by them hardening your ovaries. I mean, I'm not going to Google it, right? But I'll take it, sure, right? And whatever. I'll believe that. A lot of things are not good for you. But Lisa made that comment like, are you sure, Mary? I'm going to Google that. And Mary took offense to that, right? And Lisa, you know, Lisa is the junk food queen, right? The fast food queen. So there's probably a lot of things that that Lisa is ingesting in those fast food restaurants that are not good for her, that maybe she needs to go and Google that, right? Before she feeds her kids all that crap. Like, once in a while is fine, right? I mean, I'm being a hypocrite right now. I will 100% admit that. But when you have kids, you gotta do right by them, you know. Maybe once a week, you know, you give them fast food, but like every single day, every single meal is fast food, right? You know what? Not my kids, not my problem. They seem healthy, so hopefully they continue to be so, right? So moving back to this. So Lisa just basically said, "Oh, I need to Google that," and Mary took it some sort of way. I did feel like Mary overreacted, right? It's one of those things that is nuanced, but just from seeing that scene, I think Mary overreacted. Now, if you had someone that kept sort of taking digs at you and talked to you in a condescending way, then I can totally understand you snapping at them in that moment, right? But if this is just an isolated incident, yeah, maybe it's one of those things that's hard to believe. Like, what? Carbonated drinks hardens your ovaries? What? That's absolutely ridiculous. Like, Lisa thought it was ridiculous, but I mean, it's not really ridiculous. I'm just going around in circles here. I am. It's one of those things that is like, it's really hard to tell. Because if it was me in real life and someone said that, in my head, I may feel some sort of way like, who does she think she is about Googling it? What, she doesn't believe me? But I wouldn't actually confront them because I would feel like it's too petty to confront someone over that, right? So on one hand, like I said, Mary, she's a lot of things, but a liar, no, she is honest to a fault. Right? So she's just going to speak her mind and say how she feels. But it was kind of petty. Moving on from that. So Jenny now, Lisa and Mary, they're having their back and forth. I'm glad that it didn't drag on, right? But they're having their little back and forth. And Jenny's getting impatient because they arrive at the location. So she's like, what was she like? Come on, guys, let's get the F on. Let's fucking go. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Something along those lines. And then Mary's like, excuse me, don't speak to me like that. And then Jenny jumps off, she just like, I can say what I want. Don't tell me what to say. Da, 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 da. Later on, we find out that day is the anniversary of her losing her child, right? So she is not in the greatest of mood. She's very sensitive. And I totally 1010% empathize with her. I can't even imagine how difficult that may have been for her and that day is for her. Really and truly. However, sorry, I have to say however, that's not an excuse to talk to other people any kind of way, right? Now, listen, some people, they don't mind curse words or whatever, right? It's nothing to them. But if you don't know somebody, you can't just say, come on, hurry up, let's get the F on. What are you guys doing? You can't speak to someone like that. If you want to go, then you go. And you calmly say to the other ladies, let them have their moment. Because Lisa and Mary are having their discussion, right? Which is fine. We're all adults here. We don't all have to hold hands together and cross the street, right? You guys can go on and get to the location and then they let them have their moment. If you're over it, you walk away. You can't yell at them, tell them to hurry up. You were being rude first. So Mary had every right to be like, don't talk to me like that. And later on, Jenny said that it is a pet peeve for her for other people to tell her what to do and how to speak. And she's saying, don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to speak. I'll do what I want, right? But she was kind of being hypocritical in that moment because the reason why Mary had a problem with you is because you were telling her what to do, right? And you didn't say it in a respectful manner. You were being disrespectful at the end of the day. And, Mary didn't, I don't want to say Mary didn't take the bait when they were at that table. And I'm glad that she didn't take the bait, right? Because if Mary picked that moment to kind of go off on her, not necessarily go off on her, but to say, hey, you were being disrespectful in that moment, so I told you that was not okay, it wouldn't have been a good look, because then Jenny would have then start crying and say, I lost my child, da 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 da, which, as I said, great empathy, right? She has every right to be upset in that moment, but that does not justify you being disrespectful. That does not justify your behavior. And even at the table, she was kind of getting raw, right? Like, if you are apologetic and if you're sorry, then you don't need all that energy. But Mary kind of paid her dust. She didn't give her that energy at that moment. And Mary's like, if you have something to say and I'm right here, you need to look me in the eye. Why are you looking off in the sky at the birds, and you're not looking at me? And Mary was 100% right, because you could tell Jenny, it's like she wasn't speaking directly to Mary, but she was. You know what I mean? She was getting very hyped. So the person is right there. If you have an issue with her, if you want to say, listen, you can't tell me what to do, say it to her face, right? Even though, Jenny, I'm sorry, you were being hypocritical in that moment. You were. Because you were telling Mary what to do. Let Mary and Lisa have their conversation. Moving on to this Lisa versus Angie and this catering business. And, Lisa's just over it because she feels like everybody is assuming the worst of her, right? And they're quick to jump down her throats. And I do agree with Lisa. I mean, Meredith, I don't really expect Meredith. We know that Meredith disengages, right? So I never really expect Meredith to stand up for Lisa. Jen, to be fair, Jen has got into a lot of trouble as of late. And I'm not talking about, her criminal charges. I'm just talking with the other ladies. So I can see Jen being like, I'm just glad it's not me. I'm not getting involved. I don't too much understand what's going on in this situation, so I'm not about to open my mouth, right? But to Lisa, she's like, these are my friends and everybody is ganging up on me, which from Lisa's perspective, I totally see that, right? From Mary, who took issue with her, from Angie, and then of course, Whitney and Heather. I like Whitney, Heather, not too much, but you could tell with the both of them that they can't stand Lisa, and they really get joy out of seeing Lisa. Lisa get it. They do. So they're going to chime in when they can. Like Heather, I understand maybe Lisa making her Whitney kind of jumping in between Angie and Lisa, because Whitney was kind of trying to explain that, look, this is how Angie feels. She's hearing one thing, so you can understand why she would be upset with you or feel some sort of way, right? But Heather was overkill. Like, you didn't need to add to it. Whether Lisa is lying or not, Lisa says that it's not true. So Heather, you kind of taking a jab. We already have Angie there speaking up. We already have Whitney. We don't need you, And with this whole situation, like I said, the catering business, it's just very weird to me. It is. I don't know whether to believe Lisa or not. I'll be completely honest with you. Lisa starts crying about it because she feels like everybody is attacking her. But I would say to Lisa, I think if people are experiencing you, if a bunch of people are experiencing you a certain way, maybe you need to pause and take stock of that, right? Like, Mary's not the only one that says that you come off condescending, right? So if people are saying you come off that way, maybe you need to pause and, reflect on that. See if that's coming from anywhere. See if there's any truth to that, right? But I don't know. And I do like Lisa, but when Lisa was crying, I don't know, something in the way that Lisa cries doesn't come off completely authentic to me. And I'm not going to say she's lying necessarily, but it's just not coming across in a certain way. It comes off as kind of fake. I'm sorry, it does. But Angie, like I said, I'm looking at her sideways, right? Because if someone tells you that your friend is the reason we can't cater your stuff, like, would you really be going over there and hugging them and comforting them? Not to say you can't be adult about it, right? Or respectful to that person or talk about it. But why would you go over there when they start crying and hug them? You know, why wouldn't you say, well, if you say you didn't do this, you need to look at your friends, your restaurant buddies. You know, are they lying? Who's lying? What is going on here? Right? Let's get to the bottom of this. If you say you didn't do this thing, let's figure out what happened here. Right? So something about Angie's reaction isn't coming off as super authentic to me. And that's why I'm just really confused with this whole thing. I am. So I don't know. It seems like they have made up at this point, right? I don't know if I think they'll tolerate each other. And we're probably not going to get a conclusion to this mystery until the reunion. So I am curious to see what's going on with that, because something doesn't seem right there on both sides of the situation. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry, guys. Anyways, that's everything. See